Isaiah 20, verse 6, we read these words, "And the inhabitants of this coastland will say in that day, Behold, this is what has happened to those in whom we hoped, and to whom we fled for help, to be delivered from the king of Assyria. And we, how shall we escape?" Today, we as a nation seem to be on the threshold of a decision that can have far-reaching repercussions. There is a movement to do things such as remove the motto, "In God We Trust," from our currency, to remove the "One Nation Under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance, and so on. And those who agree with this movement, as well as those who are indifferent to it, should ask one simple question. Why did our predecessors put these things in place? Why do we see the Ten Commandments displayed in the Supreme Court? I believe that our predecessors understood something that we are losing, and it is that God is sovereign over the affairs of the nations, and that the nation whose God is the Lord is blessed. To trust in anything but God is a very foolish proposition. The background of this verse is this, that Judah felt threatened by Assyria, and in an effort to seek security, they sought an alliance with Egypt and Cush. Now you might think that this would make sense in that the might of these two powers could give them some security. However, this was a major problem for Judah. And Isaiah presented a prophecy to the nation, a rather unique one in this regards. And let me read it to you, verses 3 and 4 of that chapter 20. "Then the Lord said, As my servant Isaiah has walked naked and barefoot for 3 years as a sign and a portent against Egypt and Cush, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptian captives and the Cushite exiles, both young and the old, naked and barefoot, with buttocks uncovered in the nakedness of Egypt." The Lord tells Isaiah to remove his outer garment and sandals and walk around for 3 years, and it was an object lesson picturing what would happen to Egypt and Cush. The nation of Assyria would conquer both Egypt and Cush, stripping them there and leading them off as captives. This prophecy was fulfilled in 712 BC. Yet what was the major point? You might think that it was for Judah to avoid making an alliance with these two nations, and this is partly correct. However, it is not the big message. The big message was that Judah trusted in the ways of man rather than the Lord their God. They were trusting in a human alliance, rather than God's providence. How often do we as individuals, as a church, and as a nation trust in the ways of man rather than the Lord? Are we not guilty of the same? I believe that we are. Many of our decisions and guiding principles are from the world rather than from the Lord. We need to consider the Lord in what we are doing. In particular, as we look to the future, we must trust Him rather than the allegiances with the faithless ways of this world. We must trust in the Lord with our whole heart and follow His ways.